Hello friends and welcome to the Stroud Film Festival. Want to learn about the Renaissance? Well, to start, Renaissance means rebirth. It was a time of rebirth for art and literature in Europe. In 1300, it started in northern Italy. Northern Italy had three advantages: thriving sites, a wealthy merchant class, and a classical Greek and Rome heritage. Ideas were exchanged through trade, leading to the intellectual revolution. Renaissance art was very different from medieval art. Renaissance art was better detailed and much more went into it. But in the setting of the medieval art, it looked layered, as if each part of the painting was stacked on top of each other. Also, the faces looked similar, except for a few slight changes. In Renaissance art, the faces looked different. The setting had depth, as if you could walk into the painting. They used a technique known as perspective, which is still used today. Perspective is a vanishing point somewhere on the horizon, which is usually in the middle of the painting. Also, there were paintings called frescoes, which were paintings done on wet plaster, to give them more depth. Some of these painters from the Renaissance were Masaccio, Donatello, Brunelleschi, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo Buonarroti, Titan, Tintoretto, Bellini, Botticelli, Caravaggio, Alberti, Giotto, and Raphael. These artists were trained as apprentices. During the Renaissance, there were guilds, where the masters of the craft would take on apprentices and teach them everything they need to know for the craft. The status of an artist was fairly high. They were paid well, and a lot of the work they did was for the church. Because of this, as they gained more money, they became more well-known. People who viewed their work would be royalty, the church, and patrons. Patrons were people who funded an artist. One of the artists of the Renaissance was Jean Clouet. Jean Clouet was born in 1485 and died in 1540. Historians don't know where he was born, but they think he was born around Valenciennes. But they do know that he spent most of his life in France. He came to France when Louis XII was king. He was most likely Jean's patron. Jean Clouet was known as the painter and collator the king, giving him the salary and status of more important artists. He did a lot of portraits. In fact, that is what he is most known for. His most famous portrait was of Francis I, painted in 1525. Francis I was King of France from 1515 to 1547. He had built on the work of Louis XI. He also did a portrait of Marguerite d'Angoulême, painted in 1527. Marguerite was Francis I's sister. She had a great and lifelong influence over him. She was Queen of Navarre from 1527 to 1549. Slenderman. What are you doing here? You are not part of the Renaissance. You silly slender person. Charlotte of France was the daughter of Francis I. Her portrait was painted in 1522. She was age 8 in the portrait shown. She died the same year. This portrait of Francis I, John the Baptist, was painted in 1518. It shows what Francis I would look like if he was Saint John the Baptist. This is a portrait of Claude of Lorraine, Duke of Guise, done in 1525. He was married to Antoinette de Bourbon in 1513. Jean Clouet had a high status because he did many portraits for royalty. His legacy is the portrait of Francis I, since that is his most famous portrait. Isn't that interesting? Praise the Lord, we have learned so much today. That's all, folks.